Welcome to the Real Construction Owners Podcast, where we interview real construction owners doing big things within our industry to teach you how to go from being a stressed out operator to becoming a thriving business owner. Today, we have a special guest, Micah Macias, the owner of Roof Chiefs. He has an interesting story about how he's done government contracts all over America, made huge profits, and helped our nation become better overall. You're not going to want to miss this if you like making money and hearing cool stories. So stay tuned. What's up, Micah? How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm truly blessed and I'm highly favored. Thanks for asking. So I see you online doing projects all over America for our government. And that inspired me because, my goal is to inspire contractors the benefits of government construction contracts. And they think about all this red tape and they think all the problems but they don't know what they don't know. So we're going to unpack that today and we're going to make it very clear of all the benefits. But before we do that, tell us your story. Walk us down memory lane. What were you doing before you were doing this?
Sure. Well, pretty easy. I'm a fourth generation, so it's kind of funny. I initially went to school, went to college for a few years, kind of thinking that I wanted to go a different route because like anybody, you don't want to always do what your parents do, right? You want to do what you do. So that being said, did that for a couple of years, and it just along the way, I always still had a passion for working with my hands, things like that. And I kind of found that when I would work with my hands or do any sort of roofing work, specifically, that's what I do. I made more money than I was making at my quote unquote real job, right? My blue collar job. And so, it was one of those things. Initially, I started there and I got into, I think at the time I was living in North Austin, and I did a couple small repair jobs. I said, dang man, look how much I just made. And one thing leads to another, and you start doing that more and more and more, and you end up just sticking with that trade. It's not really anything else besides I like the freedom. I don't like being stuck to a desk. I worked for Dell, so that was it. I was stuck behind a desk on a computer all day long, and it just was not where I was happy. So that's really it.
Now, so talk to our audience. What is it that you specialize in when it comes to government construction contracts? Like, what do you do best?
Sure, roofs. That's where we spend the majority of our time. We've tried other things, some interior stuff and waterproofing, things like that. But it just we don't love
metal, tile, shingle. What type of roofs?
Yes, specifically, we do a lot of single ply roofing, so things like TPO, EPDM, but we also do quite a bit of metal. I'm sure, as you know, when it comes to roof contracts, everybody's got metal everywhere right now. So that seems to be the most popular thing that everybody wants is a Duralock or Snap Lock. And fortunately, we've got roll formers and things that we can assist with that. So lots of metal.
I love that.
EPDM and some shingles. With that as well.
Yeah, so you've done projects from Georgia to Louisiana to New Mexico to Florida to Wisconsin and every state in between. And you've done jobs where you're just given a price as a subcontractor. You've done it to where you do turnkey, where you provide labor and material. And on these, you make nice profits. Like you told me about the one at the Air Force. Tell us about that project, what it cost, and approximate project and overall experience.
Yeah, so we did Air Force Retirement Community Center. As it comes, they just needed a new roof, so we were turnkey out there. So we did full snap lock panels on this. They wanted a specific brown color. And so we basically just tore off all the old roofs, brand new. I think the total project on that was about $750,000. Profit wise, I think we made about 120 on that one as well. And yeah, it was really very straightforward because these were not massive buildings. You're talking 1 story, 612 walkable pitches. So we just had multiple crews there. One crew was sitting there breaking metal, the other crew's tearing off and installing. On-site project managers, one of the things that we do that I think really takes our game to the next level is we include threads to the, not only including the project manager, but whoever is employing us as well. So for instance, if we're doing a job for you, hey, Justin, thanks for giving Roof Chiefs the opportunity for this job. Send you a picture at 6:30 in the morning, crew setting up, so the day before, crew will be there at such and such time. Crew's setting up everything, putting tarps out everywhere. And every step along the way, we're documenting what we're doing. So that way there's constant communication. And really, as you know, when it comes to our industry, communication is key, man. That's the big thing. And so when you don't have to be there and you're getting pictures throughout the day, every single thing that we're doing, communication, you're seeing it go on. It's a whole lot easier for us to ask you for these higher turnkey prices and these profits that we're going to make, because you don't have to be there. I can legitimately look you in your eye and say, look, man, you don't have to be there, but it's going to feel like you're there with our project management and the way that we keep you up to date and included and stuff. And not only that, because we do such a good job, by the time we're done with this one, hey, Micah, I got this next job ready to go for you. I've got this next thing ready to go for you as well. So it really is the
That's
key
awesome.
difference in what we do.
Yeah, because as a broker or a paper contractor, what I do is I find the best subcontractor. I get the contract, I find the best subcontractor, they get it done. They, have certain protocols and procedures, and as long as they fulfill that, everybody gets paid in a timely manner. And with that being said, I'm excited to start sending you some deals, because you sound like a great person to collaborate with to get my contracts done. But let's dive into some technicals right now.
Sure.
So with that being said, whenever you get a contract, whether you are a sub or a prime, I'd like for you to talk to us about, how do you find your best subcontractors? Do you call suppliers? Do you use agc.org? What are your tactics?
So we have a variety of methods. Oftentimes we'll ask suppliers. Other times, yes, we'll use, GSA sub.net. We'll use all these different places that we can potentially find subcontractors. And a lot of it though, that's more of, let's say I'm taking a project, you call me and you got a project in Alabama. And I'm like, well, I really don't know a lot of people in Alabama, so this is where I'm going to track down this way. Other than that, one of the nice things is we're established. We've been doing this for a little while. So that being said, I do have quite a bit of the same guys that I use, that I send everywhere, same thing. So it makes it easier if it's something that I've been in this state before. I already know who I can send and where I can go. But like I said, if it's someplace that we haven't been before, and maybe I've got these guys busy, then we'll use a variety of methods on who can we do. And as a worst case scenario, sometimes we'll pop on Facebook and go browse and see who's posted where, and then turn around. Of course, it's always a little bit harder that way, because now you got to really vet someone, right? And see, do they really know what they say they know? Can they really do what they say they can do? So that's a whole other thing.
That's so important, to have a database of subcontractors. And what are, like, in your amount of years doing this, I'm sure you've created a database of subcontractors for different states. Why is that important for a contractor who's looking to get started?
Super important, because it makes life easier if you know who can do what and where they can do it. So for me, it's going to sound a little silly, but I think it's the easiest thing. Now I have a Google Drive, I have everything listed there, but also on my phone, when I meet people, I will literally put them in my phone, and I would say something like Justin Ledford, 8A broken, right? And so that way, if I'm looking for work, I know I just type in 8A in my phone, and boom, it's going to take me to all these people that I can send you a text. Hey, bro, you got anything going on right now? This is what I have available, and vice versa. you contact me, I type into my phone, if let's say you need a specific type, hey, I need a trapezoidal metal panel on this. So in my phone, I put people by that trapezoidal panel. And so now I've got 10 people pop up, hey brother, what do you got going on right now? I've got this job that I need to get a bid on or need to get looked at. And so once you have that, it makes life easier, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to mix a shingle guy with a metal guy or a TPO guy with a tile guy, because they're going to let you down and they're not going to do the correct job for you. And at the end of the day, when we're talking government contracts, fantastic money, great return, but you got to show up and you got to send the right person for the right job, because that's by doing that, that's how you get more work and that's how you make all the profits. So, very important.
Amen. Amen. So let's talk about Fort Sam. That was a metal roof. The job description, total dollar amount you got as a sub, your profit, and we can only guess what the prime got. Elaborate.
Right. So on this one, there's a couple parts to it. I'll say there's 3 separate parts. We did the metal roofs. We did tile roofs. So at Fort Sam, on certain parts of the base, some of the barracks are shingle roofs, right? And so we got paid out there, labor only, for all of the shingle roofs. And then we had part of it that was tile, so Spanish tile. And on the Spanish tile, rather than doing full re-roofs, there were nothing but repairs. But it was something like, this may have 8 repairs, this building may have 3 repairs, so they paid us a flat fee per building. When it came to the metal, then of course we had roughly, I want to say 2,000 squares of metal versus the tile roofs. I think we had, 100 repairs on tile roofs. And then the shingle, there was probably like 500 squares. So it was not as big or as lucrative as the metal. But if we talk about just the metal as a whole, with the what we got there, I want to say on that one, we had somewhere around $350,000 as that particular contract. And on that one, I believe we made somewhere around $75,000 to $80,000 there in
that's not bad, man. That's more than 20% as a sub. You get to show up, you get to do a great service for the nation. Your prime contractor, he did the paperwork, he handled, the billing.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had an extra 20 to 30% put in that, because that's kind of how I do it. Now, I'm curious, have you ever used a site visit sheet, sign-in sheet, to find subs to give you bids?
I have definitely done that plenty of times. So I make a note of doing that when I go and we sign in and check in. I definitely take a picture of that. And then, sometimes they don't always list their phone numbers, but you got Google to help you out there, and skip tracing people and Facebook and everything else to find out. And believe me, there's many subs that I have that have got a random text from me. Hey man, I saw your name on a sign-in sheet. Do you happen to do roofing? And yeah, how'd you get my number? Don't worry about it. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
What are you bidding on this?
Yeah. Right.
So anyways, that I've definitely done that. I think, hey man, any way that you can network and get people in there, it's really important to have a really big network.
What was that GSA sub? What'd you say, a way to find subs?
GSA.net, I've done that, and they have another one that was, I think it's sub.net. I have it saved on my laptop, honestly.
Subnet. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay. So, yeah. What are some of your follow-up tactics, whether you're following up with primes or contracting officers, to win jobs?
Honestly, my biggest thing is I just stay in contact the whole time. Anything and everything that we do, I try to go the extra mile. And so what I mean by that is, let's say you have an opportunity for me, where a lot of people I think will really mess up is, hey, I've got these 5 different bids for you. what do you think about these? And those, okay, well, how many squares? Okay, boom, let me just throw you a price off the top of my head. The problem with doing that is you get a lot of unknowns or variables that can come in there, right? Then it creates change orders and it just becomes a mess. So one of the things that I do is, like I said, I stay active the whole time. I will go out and look at the site ahead of time if we can. You know, I've got ex-military guys that work for me. So even if it's a military base, we'll fly out there, we can walk right on base. So I don't have to wait to get background check or anything else like that. So it makes life easier. We know what to look for. So I can get you a true visit, and just us going the extra mile on a lot of things, I think it helps with our follow-up, because it's like, hey, we're already here, we've seen this, and we're sending pictures to you ahead of time. We're here, we're on it, we're taking a look, there's this is what we're gonna do. And so it just, I think from the get-go, it helps when I do send that follow-up text. What did you think of this? You know, any update that you have on this, you're going to remember me for having gone that extra mile and all these extra things. And it just, honestly, I feel like it makes it a lot easier. So there's no special thing outside of the initial effort.
Now, what are some strategies that you, talking on the subject of bonding and bonding the job, what is, you know, talk to our audience, maybe they don't know what a bond is. Why do you have to put up a bond? Have you ever put up a bond? What are ways that you've increased your bonding? If you could elaborate on that.
Sure. So thankfully, I've not been in a position to where I've had to put up my own bond. Now I am bonded. I do have a great agent that I call, and every year we renew our bonding, and we have it set to a certain amount. A lot of times being the sub makes life easier since I'm not the prime, because they're not asking for my bonding. They're mostly asking for my workers' comp and my general liability. So we keep those up to date, but we are bonded, of course. And the reason we want to keep that bond on is because there are certain jobs that require that, you know, in order to have the bond. And for what makes me feel warm and fuzzy is when someone has that bond, is I know that I'm going to get paid one way or another, right? I'm not going to get burnt. And so my subs that work for me, they can appreciate the fact that they have my information and vice versa. So they know at the end of the day, if this is a $50,000 sub job, then, you know, we're bonded for that amount. And in a worst case scenario, we are going to get paid that 50K. So that's the importance of bonding. That's what helps.
And so that's so important. So like for a contractor who's like, okay, I want to get into government contracts, sometimes we have to put up a bond as the prime contractor. And as a subcontractor, which I'm talking to you, spend a little bit more. Why is that give you that warm fuzzy feeling when the prime has the bond? You know for sure what?
We're getting paid. I'll give you a really horrible example on why this is so important and what got my butt in gear on doing this. We're out in Midland, Texas, 3 years ago, and we took on a roofing and framing project, 238,000 square foot framing of apartment complex. The prime was not bonded. We framed, and we invoiced the total. And here's the horrible part: is we were a quarter of the way in, if that, on this job. We invoiced for $140,000. There was a guy above us. That guy above us was paid by the prime. Us, a concrete guy, and a siding guy all did not get paid anything. And because we didn't get paid anything, I was stuck with $140,000. Well, of course, you know, it didn't cost me $140,000, but I had 28 guys out there at a man camp. Man camps in West Texas run you about $70 a day per man. So if you do, you know, the math on that, because you got to book it for, you know, 30 days at a time. So 70 a day times 28 guys times 31 days, $60,000. right there. So that's for my stay. Now that will stay plus their labor was another, oh my God, roughly 45,000. So at this 140, I'm 105 in the hole. So now, even though I didn't get paid, guess what? I'm still on the hook for the hotel stay because we stayed. I'm still on the hook for paying the guys because they did the work. So it ended up being a very valuable lesson on why bonding was so important because
I'd say,
I
what was the lesson?
better make sure they're bonded because otherwise, unless you want to eat $105,000, that that was very important. And you know, fortunately, my crews, I have a very long-standing relationship with them, with that hotel. They knew everything that happened. I you know, had a lawsuit with the guy, and of course, you know, he got away, didn't pay, filed bankruptcy, all this fun stuff. But you know, the guys let me make payments and installments until I caught up. But at the end of the day, I still had to pay it, which meant all my future projects that I did for the rest of that year, part of that was going to paying these guys off. And it just it was, you know, I didn't come for money, right? So all the money that I built, I earned myself, and $105,000 is not a drop in the bucket to me. It was a very harsh eye opener of the importance of why I needed to do my research and make sure people were bonded before I took on a job. Because that, let me tell you, that was a kick in the gut. That one hurt.
Man, that's painful lesson. You know, that's why I teach within my group of contractors that follow me how important it is to bond your job and also get your subcontractor to bond back the job. Because if you do that, you mitigate risk, you increase your bonding potential. Your bonding agent will give you more bonding, which in turn will enable you to bid more jobs. It's a never-ending beneficial cycle. So
Yep.
this may not apply to you because you've done primarily a lot of sub work, but maybe you've done some prime work. And
Mhm.
my question to you is, have you ever come across a situation where you had to overcome the local office requirement? The CO says you got to have a local office in order just to turn in a bid. Have you ever come across that?
So I have in Florida before. Florida's very, very strict. And in those times or those instances that I do that, I have some friends that have offices in Florida, and we will partner together, and I let them handle all the paperwork on that. So I couldn't give you too in depth on that. It's more of a,
Yep,
hey,
I
bro,
understand.
I know you got an office. Let's partner. This is what I got. And so it
Perfect.
works
Yeah,
out that way because,
that's
yeah.
that works perfect. So you're speaking to the choir because you know you got to
Mhm,
be creative. With every roadblock with government, there's always a
mhm,
creative solution to overcome that roadblock. And that leads me to the next point. Have you ever had to, there's a mandatory pre-con meeting. Do you
mhm.
have any tactic or strategy that you have implemented to where you don't have to go to it, but you can do it digitally?
That I've never been very good at. I don't know a whole lot of strategies for that one. I usually just send someone out there and let them handle it, and pretty much frame it as a, hey, brother, you're about to go get a 2 3 day vacation on us. So you go out there, attend the pre-con meeting, you know, get all the information, and hey, I'll get you a hotel for a couple of nights and some per diem spending money and enjoy it. I
Nice.
haven't found a better way about it, but I would be all ears if you got a better way for me.
Yeah, mandatory pre-con, we do teach a couple strategies and
Mhm,
techniques within my mastermind and my course. So
mhm,
thanks for being transparent with us. Now, I am curious about mandatory site visits. I have two or three
mhm,
tactics that I implement. Do
mhm.
you have any strategies to where they're like, it's a mandatory site visit. You got to go to this in order just to turn in a bid. Maybe you don't because you've done more sub work, but just curious
Mhm.
if you do.
No, part of everything is we do the site visits ourselves anyways as part of our preliminary, and again, this goes back to having taken on jobs and being told that something was at a certain point and it's not. I'll give you a perfect example. Um, we're in Oregon doing a you know a cedar shake job that was supposed to start. get out there and come to find out that we're told this is dried in, and it's not. We still have all the decking off that's needing soffit drilled in. There's 4 layers of felt that goes over this decking, right? So it's not just slap some pill and stick or some synthetic felt on it, we call it a day. There's 4 different layers, and none of this is done or ready. And so we get to this point of, hey man, we said that we'd be out here, we'd be done in 2 weeks. You got about 2 weeks of work that needs to happen, and we're already here. So, that being said, now the guys are pissed off because they just drove 30 hours to get out here, and they're going to be sitting there for 2 weeks not getting paid. You know what I mean? So as that happened, it became another one of those realization moments that, man, we got to start doing these site visits ahead of time, because as working as a sub, right, it is very important to us that, if we show up, the site's ready for us. Just like it's important for us that if I tell you, hey, Justin, this job is going to take us a month to get done, and here we are 2.5 months in and we're still not done, you're not going to be very happy with us either. Hey, Micah, what the hell, man? Like, you said this, and it's not like it's been weather delays. Oh, well, you see what had happened was, it doesn't work that way. So,
well, what had happened was,
so that's why we do our site visits. On that, just again, a lot of the things we do are because I learned a lesson the hard way, and we're not going to make that mistake again.
Right. So from a prime side, a broker side, we're talking to you, who's an expert sub at what you do. There's been several scenarios where I coined it as the 0 money down deals, which I can get the contract, I can have a bond, and I can have my subcontractor pay for labor and materials. And right when they turn in their, all their paperwork, 14 days later ish, I get paid, and then I give them the money right away. Yeah. Have you ever come across that to where your prime has 0 money down out of pocket and you fund it and you get paid? Or do you normally prefer where, they're paying for the material and you're just showing up and doing the labor?
Honestly, we like both. Labor only, in my opinion, is a great way for us to make faster money. But the turnkey we like because I can actually make a bigger profit, right? Majority of the time on that, because we're providing material and labor. All that being said, like I said, we do both. I don't really have one preference over another. Fortunately, we're in a position to where we can afford to float for 14 days if we need to. And if we're ever in a position we're not, but the job pays well enough, I do have some factoring companies that I can always go to as well and say, hey, listen, I got this job, front me, this what I need to get fronted, and we can always go that route as well. So I would say if anybody's looking to be a sub and they think, hey, I don't know how the hell I can afford to float this for 14 days or 15 days, having a great factoring company in your back pocket will really kind of get you along the way. Or if not, partnering with somebody that's a bigger company than you. And the way I look at it, man, and the way that I learned, right? Because nobody really, at least when I started doing it, nobody really teaches you how to land federal contracts or what paperwork's involved. And so the way I was taught is partner with people and, do it so you can learn it, because, hey, making 50% of something's a whole lot better than 0 of something, So that's kind of how I made connections and kind of learned where I can go on this and how to float these jobs.
Well, shameless plug there. You said nobody teaches how to get these contracts and all the paperwork, but that's actually what I have created in detail, A to Z. So literally it's a system. They just sit there, watch. It's got trainings, PDFs, and it teaches somebody who has 0 experience how to go from 0 to millions of dollars in contracts and everything in between. So Cool. Thanks for mentioning that, because I just had to drop
Yeah.
a little shameless plug there. Now, I'm curious. Now we're moving to section 4 of the questions. These questions are now going to get a little more detailed on a different realm. As far as a subcontract agreement goes, when you are about to sign a subcontract agreement, what are some things that are very important inside of that subcontract agreement that that make it to where the prime is protected, but also your roles and responsibilities? What are the things that you have noticed?
Honestly, the first thing I go to is the scope of work. And I want to make sure that everything in there is completely in that scope. And there may be a section in there to where if I have questions, exactly who I contact or where to go for those questions. To me, that is the most important thing, because I've been in situations where that scope is very vague. And if it's vague, then it can leave it open for interpretation and on both parties fell. We did a job and again, a lot of mine is based off experience, right? So that's why I answer with this. Did a job in Corpus, and my scope said one thing. We showed up at this naval base, and what was expected was a completely different thing than listed on the scope. And it's one of those things that when I say completely different, we're not talking a minor change order. We're talking an extra 2 weeks, 3 weeks worth of work and an extra $60,000 in labor. And it's like, hey man, this is not some $1,500, hey, this is gonna take me a day extra 2 in work, where I can say, screw it. Like, we'll knock it out for you. Don't worry about it, because I have a good relationship with you. This is like, man, this needs to be detailed. So that being said, for me, just a really detailed scope of work. I don't really have anything super specific outside of, if you say, I need
So
the
scope
whole
of
day.
work, like scope of work, pricing, liquidated damages, any of
Yes.
that stuff. Because I think it's good as a prime side that there's like, hey, this is exactly what you're going to do.
Yes.
These are what I need from you, these photos, and here's the liquidated damage that I'm going to be charged if this is not done, and those will be passed to you. Have you ever come across
Exactly.
that?
Yes. Yes. And that's exactly what I like to see, because it's very specific and detailed and thorough. And I know exactly what I'm here to do, what exactly you need from me. And so that way there's no misinterpretation of, I thought it was just this, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we're both happy, right?
Yeah, I love that. So regarding the schedule of values or a
Mhm.
contractor's construction schedule, how do you use that to get your percentage complete payments? Elaborate for
Uh,
somebody who's never heard of this before.
sure. So um, when it comes to the schedule, it's going to be, let's talk about a roof, right? Um, it's going to say, okay, once you hit, or once you tear off, this is a certain price. Once you dry in, this is a certain price. Once you install, this is a certain price. Once you start doing this detail work or gutter work or flashing work, it's going to pay this amount. So it's very important, at least for us, the way we do things in our company. We have an on-site supervisor at all times that's there with the crew, because I want to detail, when I sent you that invoice, we tore off 100 squares. We put down X amount of ISO board. We put down X amount of this TPO. We did this many linear foot of flashing. We did this detail work. So now I know exactly where I'm at on my pay, right? Because it's not going to be, well, hey, this total job is a $500,000 job, and off this $500,000 job, every week you're going to get paid this. Like, it doesn't work that way. It gets paid off of what work you actually did, and I think it's so important to know that, because if you're just starting out and you're expecting, well, hey, $500,000, we're going to be there for 6 months, so I'm just going to break this down into X amount of weeks. So every week I should get whatever that number is,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
you get very surprised.
That's so important that you just said that, because,
Yeah.
for somebody who goes from residential to commercial to government, they've never heard of maybe a percentage complete method or using a construction schedule. And that's so valuable because you can put, this is worth this amount of dollars. And once I'm done with
Mhm.
it, I need to be paid that. This task is worth this amount of dollars. And once I'm done with it, I need to be paid for that. And
Yep.
it makes it open communication, parallel communication, to where expectations are met with, dollars once X or Y or Z gets done.
Mhm.
So now we go into prevailing wage and Davis Bacon. For
Mhm.
somebody who's never heard of this, how do you factor, what is it, and how do you factor this into when you're giving a price to a prime?
Sure. So Davis Bacon wages or prevailing wage is what that going rate is in that state for that particular trade. Uh, there was a park that we have that, prevailing wage over there is $55 an hour per man, right? So now it puts that burden on me to figure out as a sub, okay, I need to know exactly how long this is going to take, right? And so if once I know how long the job's going to take, then I know how to negotiate that price, because the mistake that I see a lot of people make is they say, okay, I'll do this job for you for, when we're talking about us as roofers, we work off of a square count, right? So, yeah, man, I'll do it for $200 a square. Okay, cool. That's a really great price. Hey, let's get it done. It's going to take us 2 weeks to get it done. Cool. And as construction, we typically work 6 days a week, and roofers were 10-hour days, right? So they're thinking $200 a square. This is I'll give you a recent example. 200 a square. This is 80 squares. So if I'm there 80 squares, $200 a square, I should make $16,000 in labor only, right? So that's what they think. Now then you come to reality. It's $55 an hour per man. Everybody works a 10-hour day. That's $550 per man when you think about it that way. You've got 8 guys working there. So you're looking at $4,400 a day. If you do 12 days of work, you just paid out $52,000. So you ended up
Yep.
completely upside down, not knowing what to do. And so you just buried yourself in a hole. So very important that you know the breakdown, how long things are going to take, and you factor in what this prevailing wage is. So that way you can just bid it appropriately, right? Because you want to make sure when there's prevailing wage, yes, your guys are getting paid well because they get that direct paycheck, right? So that direct is going to come from whoever is in there. So everybody's got to get that. So you need to factor in your
Markup.
supervision, everything else, your markup, right? So another hard lesson learned where my eyes got real big the first time I saw a prevailing wage. Oh, we can make this, and didn't work the way I thought it was going to work.
Prevailing wage was set up to protect America. It was during the Great Depression and those times. This was set up to make it to where a person doing the work could actually make an honorable income. And
Mhm.
and I'm sure maybe it was a little bit before that or after that, but that's my understanding of prevailing wage and Davis Bacon. And it's a beautiful thing because if you have a good subcontractor that you're working with, it's
Mhm.
like, hey, this is how many men, and I do that with all my subs. I'm like, hey, let's have
Mhm.
a real talk. Like, how many men are going to be working per day? Okay.
Yeah.
And how many days is this going to take? Okay. Well, prevailing wage is this, and I want you to make money. And here's
Mhm.
what I'm going to be putting on top of that. So it's very clear. And I love that
Mhm.
you explained it like that. With that being said, when it comes to us billing the government as a prime contractor, what are things that you have to give the prime in an expedited fashion in order for you to get paid quickly?
Honestly, this is really important to get all of the sub paperwork done way ahead of time. So things like, um, to me, if you do it right in the beginning, you're going to have, before we even start, right? If we're talking a federal job, a lot of times we got to go through background checks right away. If I know that we're going to get started on this job, you tell me, hey, this job's going to start in a month, I'm sending everybody immediately because we want to get started moving right away. We want to know we're good to go. I'm also going to send you all of my insurances, my COIs, everything right at the beginning, so we don't have any holdups there. And then not only that, but having an on-site site superintendent. A lot of times, I know at least when I first started, you didn't ever want to budget in like, oh, hey, I got to pay this guy whatever his salary he's going to be paid out there a week. But it saves you a lot of headache because as we're going to go back to the way that the construction schedule is. Let's say that the job starts on a Monday, and every Saturday I got to send you my breakdown or my pay app or however it is that you want me to submit to you what we've done. It's a whole lot easier for me to have them, so I can say, hey, every Saturday at noon, you're going to have the exact, this is how many squares we did, this is how many linear foot of flashing, there's all of this in. So to me, the way I look at it, there's nothing that's hard besides your basic paperwork, but you just have to get yourself in that mentality of, let me just go into this expecting I'm going to do this by whatever day you need this stuff by. So I don't really have a more detailed answer than that.
No, it's really not that hard. Everything's hard until it becomes easy, period.
Yeah.
Everything is hard until it becomes easy. Riding the bike, learning how to fish, learning how to surf, going on your first date, picking up your spouse before you convinced her to be your spouse. Like, everything's a little challenging until it becomes easy. And it's the same with the paperwork. You got to have your certified payroll reports turned in to your prime contractor in order for that prime contractor to submit his paperwork to the government. So once you give that to him, he can submit what he's got to submit. So then everybody can get some of that money. And it's crucial to do that. Now, curious about communicating with the government. You're on these jobs, you're doing an excellent job as a subcontractor. You have a broker like myself, a prime, who's in Costa Rica and he's overseeing everything, but you got this guy like yourself, and the government comes up. What are some experiences you've had where you had to communicate with the government, or your superintendent had to communicate? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So there'll be times where, they'll come by, they start asking questions related to the job, or want to see something get done a certain way. Oftentimes they'll send out their own inspectors to take a look at things. And I think that as long as you have a knowledgeable site superintendent, it makes those visits very easy, because we can say, yeah, this is exactly what you want to see. Let's walk you through whatever this is. And it can be as simple as, hey, on this section, did we do X, Y, Z? Did we upgrade this decking with 8D nails? Did we, do something simple like that? And again, if you go back to the beginning of our conversation, one of the things that we do well is we have a group chat ahead of time with tons of pictures updated along the way. So boom, I can refer back to this. And it's as simple as, hey, Justin, the guy, so-and-so just came by, Commander so-and-so, he asked about this, and boom, this is what we told him. Here you go, and of course you see all the pictures. So now it's, again, you don't even have to be there, and you're informed on, yeah, I know for a fact they did that. So there's no wait time of, oh crap, let me call Micah. Hey, Justin, you know what? Give me a second. Let me call Steve over here. Steve, yeah. Let me go look at this. It's already there, and it's ready.
Yeah, so we use Company Cam for every one of our subs. They're required to document the entire process using Company Cam. One of the tactics I teach within my course is how to protect your construction company. And one of those sub bullets is using Company Cam, having a superintendent, or having somebody designated to be that guy. Now, what are some other tactics you implement to protect your construction company or the prime construction company?
That's honestly the biggest thing that we really do, to be honest, is just those pictures and that communication ahead of time. Outside of that, there's not really anything other that I've run into that hasn't worked. So
Now, no worries. Regarding change orders,
mhm,
um, talk to people. What is a change order, and what is the process to negotiating and getting a change order approved?
sure. So change order, of course, we have an agreed upon scope of work. We get there, and right now we have people in Florida. We're doing a Sheridan hotel that's literally right on FSU, or right next to FSU. So, a perfect example. We're tearing off this existing roof. As we're tearing off this roof, it has steel beams for decking. There's a lot of spots these steel beams are completely rotted out. And so now take pictures and, hey, listen, these are these steel beams that are completely rotted out. Obviously, I can't put a brand new roof over something I know is rotted. So I'm going to have to replace this. This is the size of these beams. This is the measurement. This is what it's going to cost to replace this. And my costs, of course, I figure in material costs, labor costs, and then, of course, a markup I want to make. So, to make it really simple, and shingles, a lot of it's easier because it's just a piece of wood, or oftentimes a piece of wood. If I know the wood's going to cost me $15, my guy's going to want $10, so that's 25. And let's say I want to put $10 on it, so $35 per sheet that I got to replace, right? And I have to replace 10 sheets, so I need $350 to do this, right? And this is a really simple low end change order. So that's the process. Then, of course, I'll communicate that with the prime, pictures, and what I'm going to charge for it. And as long as I've got the pictures and proof, and we have that conversation, that phone call, you're good with it. Now I send it in written form, right? Because you always want to get a written change order, because if you don't get a written change order, somebody can forget about it, or it's really easy to not get paid on it. So
Yep.
I type it up really quick on whatever form I'm going to use, send it to you. Let's get that signature back over, and boom, at the end of the week, I go ahead and submit that on with my certified payroll, or whatever form that that I'm using over there to get paid on. So
Love it.
that's
Love it.
that's
It's
pretty
simple
simple.
enough. It's
Mhm.
simple enough, but sometimes they do cause delays if they are big change
If they're
orders.
big change orders, yes, absolutely. Then we're talking, it can cause some big delays there. But for the most part, thankfully, a lot of the stuff that we've come across, at least this year, has been pretty straightforward. I have my answer within the day. Yeah, let's go ahead and knock it
Yeah.
out or not.
Micah, this has been a blast. You're a professional roofing contractor that does federal contracts nationwide. We have 8As and hub zones and contractors listening in that might want to use your service. If somebody's listening and they're like, hey, I want to talk with this man, or even, storm restoration contractors that need a good
Mhm.
sub, how can they reach out to you, man?
Sure. Then go to our website, www.roofchieftx.com. They can, shoot us out on my cell, my email. Myself, mind me listening, it's 210-883-8161. Shoot me a text, call. That's my personal cell. Like I said, those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. If you go to the website, we've got our email address on there, company phone number, all that. But yeah, we've got all of that. We've got references. We're insured, the whole 9 yards. So we're definitely able to help out plenty of people, and would love, we love working relationships. So one of the things I always say to people when we start a job with them is I jokingly but very seriously tell them, look, I will gladly take this one job from you, but that's not what I want. I want a long-term relationship. A lot of the guys that I get work from are same people who've been sending me work for years, because we take care of them. So, I don't want this one job from you, just this one. I want all the work. So by all means,
Yeah.
reach out. Love to help anybody out that we can.
Thank you so much, Micah. You have a good day today,
Hey,
brother.
thank you. You too. Take care.